Hello my friends, Mia DeBolt here, bringing you more transparency in trading. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey from where I'm at to the 7-figure mark. So today I'm going to be catching you up on the trades that I took last week. So just to be completely transparent, I was kind of overwhelmed with tax season. I don't know about you, but I had quite a bit of finances to put together before we sent it off to the CPA. So I was in the trenches doing that last week in my spare time, and then I also traded. So I took this weekend to really think through my message today because, quite frankly, it was a down week. And with a down week, there comes a lot of lessons. So day 5, I actually logged a day for my FTMO challenge because I need 10 before the 21st of April. So Monday, I just opened a trade, closed a trade, and logged a day. And so that was day 5 of my FTMO challenge. However, Thursday and Friday were my days that I actually logged and traded. And so those are the trades that I'm going to be covering today. Simultaneously, I'm also doing a funded trader challenge repeat. And so Thursday and Friday were day 5 and day 6 of the funded trader repeat challenge. Okay, so without further ado, let's take a look at the trades that I took and kind of the thinking behind them. Okay, so Thursday was the second day that ICT had actually live streamed. And so I was actually on the live stream, I was listening to him, I was in student mode. However, I was also looking to take a trade. So that was kind of the mindset behind this trade. So I was expecting higher, and I do have the standard deviations all set up. And I was looking for this to be bouncing off of the 15-minute fair value gap. So we had a really big impulse. And so this is where my trade actually started. Okay, so you can see here that I have a 1-minute fair value gap that's already set up, and I'm looking at these overlapping candles and expecting these to be a balanced price range. So I'm expecting this to go up. I do have some lessons learned that I'm going to be sharing with you, and this is where I enter at the bottom of the hour. So note the time because 8:30 is really important. It's 8:30 Pacific Standard Time, and that's a really important time because it's still in consolidation. I'm expecting this to go a lot higher because this is about 50% of the actual daily range that I'm looking for. And so this is where I enter. Okay, so I'm entering higher in the expansion, and I do enter on a down candle. However, it is high in this expansion. So it's already 100%, and I am expecting the daily wick to be the next target. And so that's kind of my terminus target. Okay, so just note here that there's a short-term low here, and it is 8:32 now. So it's now starting to come back down to what I believe is a balanced price range. And so that's where I've really back tested this, and I know what I would do differently. So I will share that with you very shortly. Okay, so let's continue this trade. You can see here that I'm trimming my risk. So my risk was down here as a 1% trade, and it was down here for the funded trader. I had a tighter stop loss for the FTMO challenge, and so that's kind of another thing that I might do differently, is just have the same stop loss for each of the trades and each of the accounts. Okay, so let's speed this up, and you can see here that it does go nicely a little bit in my direction, and we do come to close to the top of the hour. So we have a nice expansion up. It's 8:37, 8:38 this time, and so it is looking like it's going to go up, which is a great indication. So that is a break in market structure. However, some of the things that I back tested and wanted to take a look at was this kind of anemic price action up here. So it's not really running towards that daily consequent encroachment. And so we are passing time. So again, it's 8:41. So again, we're pushing up. And so I was in a nice little profit, but it starts to retrace. So already it's 8:42. And so this is kind of where I have my overlapping candles here. They're 15-minute overlapping candles. And that's where I am expecting higher prices. However, this starts to happen. So it starts to retrace back to my entry. It's 8:44 already, and so this 15-minute candle is still looking to close. Okay, so it gives me a little bounce off that 1-minute fair value gap, and so it's looking good, except that there's overlapping candles here. If that was bullish, then it would have continued up. However, it didn't, and it collapsed down. So it's starting to retrace, and it's already 8:49. So what we're faced with is that we're coming up to the lunch hour, and the lunch hour typically likes to take some liquidity before it actually goes. And if it is continuing, it would continue up, and the lunch hour is usually where it consolidates. So that's kind of where I was thinking already that I'm going to be closing this at the daily consequent encroachment. And so I was looking for this to turn around, and I do have my risk trimmed already. So I got stopped out with my FTMO account at 0.5%. So half of where it should have been, which is just leaving it here and giving it more room. I was thinking of actually entering again, but then we start closing the 5-minute candle, and so that started to look bearish to me, and I was just not really interested in this trade at all. So having looked at this in retrospect, it was 8:51. So again, there's macro that starts running at 8:50 to 9:10 Pacific Standard Time, and so that's something that I have back tested, and it does seem to retrace, and so this was just a retracement to continue to the upside. And so it does run in my favor about 4 to 5%, and my original trade would have been great. However, with the funded trader, I might have been stopped out. You can see here, I was just kind of checking. I probably would have been stopped out with the funded trader. 8 cap has horrible spreads, and so that likely would have been just saving 1.1% loss. And so FTMO, however, would have been something that I could have stayed in, and it would have been really uncomfortable. However, it probably would have kept me in. So I was pretty close with FTMO as well, even with a 5-pip stop. Okay, so after that happened, it does start turning around. It starts going bullish, and I end up just walking away for the morning. So I do think about re-entering. I am looking for being more aggressive because I am coming to the end of my challenges. However, I just didn't want to revenge trade. So I wanted to make sure that I had some time to dust it off and to come back really refreshed and look at the charts again. So we are kind of in a higher time frame expansion, and so we came up to the 1 hour rejection block, and we made a rejection. So that was another thing that I noticed on the higher time frame, and we did come down to the bottom of the daily fair value gap. So that was another place where smart money was probably getting in. Okay, so I'm just going to stop this and we'll move to the next trade. Okay, so this is the afternoon trade, and so I was watching it expand all morning, and so this is kind of where a little bit of FOMO came in. Another thing that I have to note is that because I'm in technically the last week of my FTMO Repeat Challenge, I am looking to be more aggressive. So my typical risk management of reducing my risk to 0.5% is kind of thrown out the window. So I just risked 1% on the second trade as well. And this is where I enter a higher risk trade on 1%, and I am in this for 0.5% for the funded trader. So I thought that I was in this for 0.5% for FTMO. However, it ends up being a 1% trade. Okay, so we're at the higher end of this expansion. We're starting to consolidate both on the DXY and the S&P. And so this is kind of where I enter. Okay, so I enter here because it is the 15-minute consequent encroachment. It's also about 50% of the weekly open gap. And so this is where I do believe that this is going to go up for this daily high. So it's 12:41, so it's already late in the macro, and typically it's the last hour of trading from 12 to 1 o'clock. And so it's already really late. It does go nicely in my direction a little bit. However, it is consolidating and it's starting to look like it's starting to be bearish. So unfortunately, I don't close it in profit. And this is also a daily volume imbalance. And so this can act as resistance on a higher time frame. So I'm in this for a little bit of profit with TFT. Because of the spreads, it's not really that much profit, and I'm looking for more because I am underwater with the funded trader a lot more than I am with FTMO. And so this is where I just choose to wait for my terminus target. So I'm expecting the macro to really kick in. If it's going to take the daily high, it's going to do it so quickly and do so very shortly. So 12:44 is looking like it's starting to go bullish, and so it's extending nicely on the 5-minute. And so that's kind of where I felt like this overlapping candle was a really great indication that it was going to be bullish, and that was another reason that I did buy there. And so this is what happens afterwards. So the 5-minute closes, it kind of collapses. It closed above, but it immediately starts going down. And again, it drives one more time and continues to just consolidate. So it takes that short-term high. However, it just starts to have displacement to the downside. So this is where I should have just closed this out and called it good, because these overlapping candles should have held price up if we're going to continue up, but they do not. And so this goes directly down and starts to put me into drawdown. So I'm in drawdown here, and unfortunately I wanted 41.80, and that was my terminus target. It was a very high risk trade just because we're so high in the expansion. However, I was looking to get my terminus target, and quite frankly, I was trying to impose my will upon the market. So that's something that I definitely am writing down and making sure that I don't do that next time. So that's what I might do differently. I do hold on to this, and unfortunately this is a 15-minute wick, and so this is where stop losses are, including mine. So it's not a great place to have my stop loss, and so I do have to endure some of this retracement. So I'm still in this. I didn't trim my risk. I didn't have the same issue that I had in the morning, which is I got stopped out early. So if it does want to turn around, it should do so soon. So it's 12:53, and it made a nice push up. However, it collapses really quickly, and so it's laying a candle down on that 1-minute volume imbalance. And so very shortly I am kind of at break even with FTMO. I'm still underwater with the funded trader, and I just decided to close this because it's not doing what I want it to do, which is having big candles towards that daily high, and so it's just consolidating some more. So I do end up closing this very shortly. So this is not a great place to enter because we have all this bullishness. We came up and we're almost at the top. However, it's towards the end of the trading day. So it's already 12:59. The hour closes, and I just end up closing it. So 0.14% loss, and I believe it was 0.21 loss on the funded trader. So I did end up with a loss for the funded trader and FTMO, and so I end up calling it a day. Okay, so this is what the trades look like after the fact, and you can see here that I did have a retracement. It was pretty deep, but it did respect the 15-minute order block and the 5-minute order block here. So it's something that I definitely have logged, and I will make sure that I am still in this and make sure that maybe I have a bigger stop loss. So that's kind of where I have a 4% potential. However, it was something that I didn't account for, this big drop right before the macro kicked in. So that's something that I am back testing. So I'm making sure that's in my trade plan in the future. This is the higher risk trade, and it was higher risk because it's at the top of the expansion at the end of the day. And so this is the consolidation that I got caught up in. And so it gravitated and took that sell side liquidity and then consolidated. Okay, so that initial win would have been a 2-hour and 20-minute win. So I would have had to endure a whole lot of back and forth. So this is kind of a high resistance liquidity run. So it would have taken over 2 hours to actually hit my terminus. And so it's something that I also have to log and journal. So those are the things that I would do differently on that day, on Thursday. So day 6 in the books, and I took a loss. So my balance on FTMO at the end of the day was negative 0.46% because I was a little bit in profit at the beginning of the day. And then on the funded trader, I was at negative 1.76 for my balance for the funded trader. So I was already underwater about negative 0.68, and then the actual losses that I took in the afternoon, in the morning sessions on Thursday. Okay, so that brings us to Friday's trading. So Friday we had 5:30 red folder news as well as 7 a.m. red folder news. And so I was waiting for both of those to transpire and to be complete before I actually entered the market. So one thing that I was watching at the 5:30 news was that it took buy side and reacted from the daily mean threshold of the daily candle. And then at the 7 a.m. news, it pushed down aggressively, starting towards sell side. And so because that was the direction I was already looking to get into, that was where I start my trade. So you can see here that I've marked up the 9:30 fair value gap, and this has already reacted from it. It's already done a nice little accumulation here. So we're almost down to the daily consequent encroachment of the daily wick. And so I have a couple of things marked up. And so we're under the algorithm open, and we're also under the open range gap. So we've already filled it both ways. And so I am expecting this to come down to this 15-minute fair value gap. And then there's another one down here as well. So I am looking for more sell side to be taken because the previous day was very bullish. And so I do believe that there was more sell side to be taken. Okay, so this is where we're consolidating. This orange rectangle is a 5-minute volume imbalance. So I was looking for candles to actually lay over that, which is right here. So I was expecting lower prices from here. So again, take note, it's 7:41, and this is where I start thinking about entering. So I have a 5 pip stop on my FTMO, and this is a 1% trade, and 6.1 pip stop on the funded trader. So I do chase price a little bit here, which I might do differently, just wait for this to come up and fill a fair value gap. So that's definitely something that I don't typically do these days, and so it was a little bit of FOMO. Okay, so you can see here that my FTMO and my funded trader is a little bit different. So this one has a little bit higher stop than my FTMO. So this breaks down, goes into the 15-minute fair value gap, and then starts retracing. So I already kind of feel like I'm a little bit in trouble just because this is something that is already starting to come back up aggressively. So I wasn't quite sure if the 15-minute was terminus for the sell side, and then we're going to start going back up. So this is kind of where there's a daily fair value gap, that blue line, and so I was just kind of questioning, but I was trusting my analysis. Okay, so that's the reason that I hold on to these trades, and you can see here this is my FTMO, and I am a little bit lower here. So this is the 5-minute volume imbalance, and I am expecting that to create resistance. However, having my stop loss right there is not necessarily a good thing. Okay, so I'm just going to speed this up because I am wanting that 1-minute fair value gap to create some resistance. It does not, and it speeds right through this and goes back up to the 5-minute volume imbalance, lays a candle, and then starts going down to my terminus target. So here's the thing that I did learn is a 1.13 loss on FTMO, and it was a 1.11 loss on the funded trader. So here's where I don't enter again, but it does start breaking down. And so I think about it, but again, I don't want to be a revenge trader, and I don't want to get right back in just because it's emotional and I want to grab a piece of the market. So that's where I just hold off, and I'm rethinking it. It is very choppy here, and there's a lot of chop. And so you can see the 5-minute volume imbalance was laid over both sides, and then it starts to continue down. So here's the beautiful part about both of my trades. On Thursday and Friday, they both were in the right direction. I just didn't have the greatest entry as well as the greatest stop losses. So those are both things that I can tweak, and they are things that I am definitely moving forward with and will do differently. And so I just end up tape reading for the rest of the day. I walk away from the charts and just come back for the PM session because I am looking to grab a piece of the market, and I'm looking to finish these challenges with a positive, if not just pass the challenges altogether. So that's where I have to be available for these markets when the market presents opportunity. Okay, so this brings us to the PM session. So the PM session, I was looking at taking another sell because on my higher time frame analysis, I was just expecting more bearishness. I was expecting the weekly to close bearish. And so that was the key. I just had the wrong bias, all right? Because the DXY was pushing down for sell side and it was retracing. There was a bearish breaker on the DXY, and then there's also a bullish breaker on the S&P that I did not notice until after the fact. So this is where a lower close on this makes a bullish breaker. So this was a bullish breaker on the 15-minute. And so when you see my trade, you can see that it was something that I did not consider. Okay, so here's where we break structure. I'm looking at this as a raid on buy stops. And so 11:19, you can note the time. And this is where I think about entering. Okay, so I'm in this for 7 pip stops on both of them for 1%. And again, I'm looking at this as a bearish day. And I'm just looking at this 15-minute fair value gap from the morning session to create some resistance, and it just doesn't. It just continues to go up. So it was kind of a seek and destroy day, and it just continued to go up. So here's what I might do differently next time, is just when it actually doesn't create resistance, then actually closing the trade altogether. So that's where I could have saved myself some equity, and it's definitely something that I can do differently in the future, because there are fairly equal highs here and the market doesn't like to keep those intact. So that's what it was reaching for. There's reaching for all of this liquidity up here, and you can see here that I did move my stop up and increase risk. However, I do end up changing my mind and not creating some extra loss for myself. So that was another old habit that I used to do a lot, and you can see that's in my trading right now, and so it's something I won't do again. And so I did learn my lesson there, and I did end up moving my stop back to the original position and ended up getting stopped out. So here you can see here that I took the full loss, so it is just running for more buy side. So it does end up taking my stop loss. There was a 5-minute volume imbalance right here in the light orange, and so that's where I was expecting that to create some resistance as well, and it just doesn't end up doing that. Like I said, the 15-minute fair value gap should have been the indication, and there I am stopped out of the funded trader for a negative 2.21% loss, and then I end up closing manually and saving just a little bit because there was spreads on FTMO as well. So negative 2.16 for the day for FTMO and over 2% loss on the funded trader. Okay, so you can see here the two trades that I took, and so this one on the funded trader was just stopped out by the spread, and it would have gone in my favor. So that was a 3% win had I actually stayed in it and had a better entry, and that's definitely something that I will consider. I think more importantly than just my entry, giving myself more of a stop loss as well. So this one was a 7 pip stop, and you can see here that it did get stopped out, but it came back here and consolidated at the top of the daily fair value gap, and then it dropped down to a breaker. So it filled that 1 hour volume imbalance. It just ran over it and cut the grass, as ICT likes to say, and then it respected that bullish order block and then continued up. So that's where the Friday trading was a little bit more tricky for me, because I wasn't expecting that 15-minute breaker to be a 15-minute breaker. So that was a 15-minute breaker because the close of this candle and the open of this candle were below this one. That means that this was a bullish breaker. So it came down to the median threshold of that breaker and then continued up. So that would have been a nice little buy towards the end of the day, utilizing the last hour of the day macro. Okay, so over the shoulder, you can see where my accounts are. You can see that I did have a dip in equity on FTMO. I'm on day 7, and tomorrow will be day 8 because I do have to have 10 minimum days, and the last day of my FTMO challenge is on the 21st. So it's up here on the 21st it ends. So you can see that I did take some losses, and I did have a small little trade on the 10th, and then 2 losses on the 13th and 2 losses on the 14th. So I did minimize my loss in the PM session on the 13th. However, I took full losses on Friday. Okay, so you can see here that I'm at negative 2.62, and this is not something that is unrecoverable. I have got my account back up to positive in a short amount of time, just by focusing on the right things. So I'll talk about that in a second. All right, so the funded trader, I do have negative equity here as well, so negative 3.93%. And so this one's a little bit more underwater, but I also have a little bit more time to recover this account. Okay, so I did take 2 buys and they were losses, and 2 sells and they were losses. And so I have 9 days and 20 hours. So this ends on 4/27. So I'm on day 7. So I've logged 6 days, and so I'm technically on day 7 of the funded traders. So that's where I am in my accounts, and I can't do anything about it now because it's Sunday. However, I have Monday through Friday this week to actually recover my accounts and maybe even pass phase 1. So I'm not trying to be overly optimistic. I know that this is something that's going to be a journey. So up until now, I've had ups and downs. Losing is definitely part of the game of trading. And so as long as you keep in the game, you're definitely not going to fail. And so that's the mindset that I have. So I also wanted to share this quote that really encapsulates how I'm going to be proceeding in this following week. The driver who cannot tear his eyes away from the wall as he spins out of control will meet that wall. The driver who looks down the track as he feels his tires break free will regain control of his vehicle. And that's by Garth Stein. So Garth Stein is a race car driver. So if you focus on the wall, you're going to hit the wall. And if you focus on the track and focus on the feeling and what you know how to drive, you will regain control. So that's what I choose to focus on, is really focusing on learning the lessons that I learned last week, incorporating those into my plan, and making sure that I'm really hyper-focused on my trading this week, and also being aggressive, because quite frankly, I have a couple of bullets. If I choose to actually take a 2% trade, that will be a high quality trade. And so that should get my account back up to positive. And then I'm also looking to pass the challenge this week. So it really only takes a few trades, and that's what I'm planning on doing. So I have 3 more trading days that I must log to pass that part of the challenge for FTMO. And that's what I plan on doing. So my friends, that's what I'm going to focus on. I'm focusing on the actual trading effectively, trading efficiently, trading profitably. So the lessons that I learned this past week are just to open my stop a little bit more, give myself a little bit more cushion so that 1, I'm more comfortable staying in a trade, and then 2, I can make more decisions that are going to be profitable in the long term. So the past week it was a loss, and that's okay with me, because trading is ups and downs, is wins and losses, and it's all a part of the trading career. So as long as you dust yourself off and focus on trading effectively, trading according to your plan, trading and learning those lessons that you learned, like when to actually take a trade, when to actually expect a retracement, and then when you actually expect a continuation. Those are things that I'm going to be incorporating in my trading this week, and I look forward to sharing those with you. So my friends, in order to continue this journey with me and see how I do this week, because I will be logging more trades and I will be sharing those with you, make sure that you subscribe below so that you get all of my videos. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to sharing those videos with you. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.